Hey everyone, and welcome to Platos Cave with Dave. I'm not sure where Mackie is. I've checked all my messages. I can't see him anywhere. So, it's the Dave show again. Don't hate me. He might be having some problems with his chat. Thank you so much. Whoever's producing, you can type it in the chat so I can see and I can give you a thanks very much for picking it up, allowing the station to pick this call up. Goodness me. I'm broadcasting from Dark and Junk Country. This is Revolution Radio. This is Platos Cave. Good morning. Good morning to whoever you are and wherever you are. Whence a cup of coffee in hand, 7 a.m. Eastern United States time. I want to thank anyone who has been watching our videos on Rumble. There's Mackie, he's just joined. Because we had a huge spike, 3,000% increase on videos.
You said 5,000?
No, 3,630 or something like that.
You said 5,690. I've got it right here.
I'm not sure that's the truth. If I have a look, it says, it's now leveled off at 5,750.
Percent?
Yes, increase.
So how many views is that?
Well, it was one, and now it's only 351 views.
Well, that's significant, actually.
Well,
which
the amount. Normally, we were getting about 40 to 50, 60 views. And to get that big spike, that's pretty good. And that's on Rumble. That's Rumble.
Which show was that?
There's a bunch. And people were looking at everything on our channel, which is great.
Great. Awesome.
However, something also to mention, that we had a tremendous spike on YouTube by putting 2 small reels up.
Oh, great.
Yeah. And if you're following us on any social media, you will see those reels. And
excellent.
I look forward to making more of those because I think it's really important. It is the way that some people consume their media now.
We are living in the short reel world. In fact, to an extent, Dave, I hadn't been aware at all. It is significant.
Yes,
the consumption on TikTok. I say TikTok, TikTok was the first with the short video format, really,
yes.
To come out. And of course, there was Twitter before with the short messaging, etc. But it was really TikTok that changed the game. And now there are a number of different applications that do something. So YouTube is trying it as well. But of course, YouTube is still, funnily enough, you and I, but maybe you see even less than I do. But we normally only see English stuff. I see some German stuff and some Spanish and such, Mm-hmm. But you probably only see English stuff, which is only a tiny section of all of YouTube.
Oh yeah, I know.
And a lot of people use YouTube for storage, believe it or not.
That's right.
It's but that's tremendous. It's tremendous to get a spike like this.
It is definitely a start, and thank you to everyone who has been watching our videos. I really appreciate it.
Yep.
So, Mackie, I'm just asking you, are you doing video at the moment? Because I can't see it.
I am on video, but
turn it off. And
hang on. No, I am on video. I'm turning it off.
Yeah.
And now I'm turning it on.
Simply no change to this end yet, but that's all right.
How's that? Is it on?
Well, no.
It has to be on because I'm green here.
There it is. It takes a little while to come up.
So just put up 2 things. One, I'm still not happy with Teams as a platform for chat. Skype, for all its faults, worked just a lot better. I'm sorry, but just it did. Secondly, we do appreciate you coming to watch these videos or listen to the content of older videos, which are really more audio form, really more podcasts. And the reason for that is, while the Platos Cave is mostly off the cuff, we do keep up with news and other things as well, but all of the Shiny Sell Out episodes have a tremendous amount of research behind them. Okay, there's a lot of research we put into every show cycle, into every show. That's why there really isn't a single show cycle anymore. It just doesn't. We used to have it, but a show would be done on that day, and now not so much. Now the hypothesis is we're probably looking at 20 Sundays. If I want to hazard a guess, Mind Control was 104 pages in the end, and how many was that? 9 or 10, something like that.
11.
11. Thank you, sir. So do stay with it. There's a lot of content, and we've taken the hard work out of finding stuff for you. But again, thank you so much for making it worthwhile by consuming our content. Interesting things have happened, Dave, and thank you because I had a hard time getting into Teams. It's just anyway. We'll figure it out as we go along, and
we will.
Maybe
and there is I know that in the background there is work still going on at the station for that. So happy days.
Okay. Happy days.
But look, you can take this and run with it.
No. Actually, I don't really want to focus on what's happening. Look, a few things have happened. I will probably spend 5 minutes talking about current affairs with your input, maybe 10 minutes. But ultimately, in Australia, a watershed moment of politics has arrived. And I think that watershed was brought about by the success, number one, of the, I guess, the Labour Party, unexpected success, to be honest. And this vote was everyone but Dutton. It's just that's the vote we had here. But also the success of the independents.
Yes, teal, we call them teal.
In fact, the Liberal Party is now reduced to pretty much the size of the crossbench, if you really look at the numbers. And the crossbench is where all the independent people sit, essentially, right? So I have high hopes, right? If we can get rid of the Labour majority, I've got high hopes that at some point we will arrive at a true parliamentary scenario where coalitions have to be formed amongst a variety of different parties with a variety of different agendas and interest groups, for the simple reason that in Australia, at least, our Westminster system of Labour and Liberal, and Nationals to some lesser extent, no longer reflects Australian reality. It just doesn't. The more independent people we can get into Parliament, in my opinion, the better. Don't listen to the scaremongering that a minority government can't achieve anything. Many parliaments around the world, many bodies of government are operating under exactly that kind of system. A bad example, of course, here is the Knesset, which is the Israeli parliament, where two, count them, 1, 2, ultra right, they're to the right of Hitler, from as far as nationalism is concerned. They're to the right, in the far distance. So Hitler would appear moderate in their world.
Wow.
Okay? Oh no, absolutely, and I'm not taking it back because that's the truth. Now nationalism, of course, based on the Israeli people, Jewish people, but it is these two ministers in Netanyahu's cabinet that pretty much control, I guess, the Gaza war and what is and what isn't happening, as well as some other things. But what we're seeing now is ethnic cleansing in Gaza. There's no other word for it. And after almost 2 years, it's 1.5 years now, almost 2 years. Actually, it's a bit longer than it's a year and 9 months, something like that. After all that time, they still haven't been able to root out the opposition in Gaza. It's still not. And still they launched these massive attacks on what's left of the Gaza Strip. It's horrendous, and the mind boggles. Ukraine, clearly Putin doesn't want any peace. Trump thought they had a great call. Putin was very much of a much more neutral disposition. The global economy is still adjusting. And it's the uncertainty really that's hurting us. But again, I don't want to spend too much time on that. What is your take on the current situation, Dave, across the spectrum there?
Okay, so I'll start because on the screen I have the current breakdown of the House of Reps, the House of Representatives for those. The 77 in the left, the right, who are called the opposition, are made up of a coalition between Liberal Party of Australia and the Liberal National Party of Queensland and the Nationals. So it's I think the Nationals that have split, and that doesn't leave very many people to oppose the current government in one piece. So I made the call, and I've talked to you about this, Mackie, but I made the call that if they were ever to break up, they've got 3 years to form some kind of government. Otherwise, they'll never beat the sitting government. There won't be the numbers, unless of course this government ends up being anyone but our current Prime Minister, as it was anyone but Dutton or anyone but Trump in the 2020, 2020 election. So if that case comes about, then sure, I can see it folding. There might be some teals break out of the Nationals Party to become independents. You can see the colour is teal. And then there's some other minor parties like the Greens. They've had a hard time. Centre Alliance, Katter's Australia Party, and there's a longer list. Like, this doesn't really even get to what it looks like. So look, that's my take on Parliament, on politics in Australia. I still have yet to see anything positive. The only negative that we've seen so far, we had a rate drop today, which means nothing. But Albanese government, the current sitting Prime Minister, has been pondering, and there's talk about this, whether it's enacted yet, I'm not sure, but that is the unrealised profit from capital gains taxes. What they want to do is tax your capital gains over $3 million worth of value of your capital asset. If it increases in the financial year, they want to be able to tax you on that increase. But you haven't sold it yet, so it's unrealised. This is one of the problems that the left, Biden and Harris, wanted to stand on the same thing. Oh, we have to tax those people who are wealthy, who are making money, like in the stock market or whoever it was. But if you don't sell your stock, it could go down tomorrow. Something could happen, and you could lose value in that capital gains. Yeah. And therefore, the tax you pay, you would have to be able to claim that back.
Yeah, you could claim it as a loss, right?
That's right. But if you paid it before selling the stock, and you kept something for 10 years and you kept paying it, is it worth anything now? See, there's a big question. Have you just destroyed the actual mechanism that allows people to make money in the stock market or in your superannuation? Are you destroying it by taxing it while it's still in there and you haven't got access to it?
You certainly, because right now any money in superannuation is not taxed once it's in there. It just sits there, and none of the interest that accumulates is taxed either. You're quite right.
Mm-hmm.
And superannuation, similar to 401k, so any kind of retirement fund that is managed, is made up of a variety of different components. There's stocks in there, and bonds, and cash, and property. A whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah. The investments are varied.
Yeah. Now you do get taxed on obviously. I mean, you're taxed on the money that you put in because that's your income. So so the money that goes into the super is already taxed.
Yep.
Right. There's already a tax on it. It gets really complicated when you start taxing the profit then, because the money I've got in there, you can't tax. And is the profit of the money that it's already been taxed, is that taxable? Or is it only money that hasn't been taxed, which is past profits? So you've got two sets. Yeah, you've got two sets of money in there. You've got the money that you put in taxed, and then you got the money that accumulated through growth, let's call it, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So do you tax? After. So what are they taxing then?
They're attempting to tax the growth of your capital gain, but they've set a low floor of $3 million. worth of
well,
investment in there.
There aren't a lot of people that have $3 million in the super.
Apparently, there's only 8,000 people who have that.
It's not me, Dave.
And,
it's not me.
Don't look at me. I haven't got anywhere near that. So that's interesting that they should do that. And now my question is that the thin edge of the wedge when it comes to capital gains taxes on unrealized profit or benefit? Because crypto is a beautiful one for that. You buy some crypto, it earns money on its own, you did nothing. Suddenly you've got $3 million and $1. And they go, oh, you earned $1. Now you're within the threshold of us being able to tax you on it. I think that would ruin the ability to do anything in each one of these sectors or markets, if you will.
Look, it becomes very complex.
What if you do self-managed property in your super?
That's exactly becomes complicated. So the smart thing at that point would be, now this is in Australia, and I'm not giving financial advice.
No, we're not.
But in Australia,
put the warning screen back up again.
Yeah, this is not financial advice. This is just my opinion. It's an opinion, Mackie's opinion. What you would need to do if that were to come into play, Dave, what you would have to do is something I would do. I would put things into a trust.
That's right.
Into a family trust, and the truth is that's what all these billionaire types do.
They actually put a restriction on now that you can't create a new family trust.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, but you sorry, I don't know what the thresholds are, but you can still create trusts, because if you want self-managed super,
yes,
it has to be in a trust.
That's right.
Right.
But it's a family trust where a single owner, a very wealthy family, would put all of their money into the family trust, and each of the people, without paying tax, it's tax-free going into the family trust, and then they would generate an income from this trust, each of them having a role in the trust. So you're either the secretary or the treasurer or an admin, or what. There has to be a minimum amount of people in it. And so they would generate an income just low enough so that they didn't have to pay any tax at all. It's beautiful. I love it. And that nest egg just keeps growing. Whoa, boy, look at that. So that was something that I was told by someone who had one. And they said, you've got to do this. Like, it's so good. And around that time of that discussion, it then got stopped. You couldn't make them anymore.
It is because, again, the people with means, and I'm talking like the big boys and girls, right? They will not be touched by this. That's my prediction, because they've got the means and wherewithal to get the best accountants, the best lawyers, take things offshore, etc., hide the money, whatever it might be. Who they're going to get is the middle class, because obviously the working poor, right, which is a lot of people, they're not really captured by this. There's no interest in, for them to do anything like that. But the middle class, such as it is to this day still, will be affected by this the most. The mom and pop investors, the self-managed, because I've got friends who use their self-managed super fund to purchase properties, for example, right?
That's right. That's right.
I spoke to my accountant. One of the best things you could do, which is really interesting, there are two things that people don't really think about. One, parking spaces. Two, storage units.
That's right. You
purchase those, and there's actually no maintenance at all, zero. Okay, and depending on where the parking space is, I mean, you want to obviously have it in the CBD of some sort. Same with the storage space in a busy suburb. Yeah, 100%. So that will always yield you a return. Always, it's almost impossible to not make money on these things. Whereas a house, a flat, that's even industrial property, like factories and shops.
They could go unattended for a very long time. Yeah,
100%, 100%. Right. So look, there are ways and means to do this, but certainly it is all moving very much in the direction of destroying the middle class, as we've spoken about many times, because that's the engine for any economy. Make no mistake, it is not the top. It is not the bottom. It's the middle that generates most of the economic activity.
Oh, so sorry. When I said I meant vacancy rates are high.
Yeah.
On
Well,
industrial property. Mm-hmm.
yeah, correct. Especially in a I guess a recessive or depressed economy as we are experiencing somewhat now. What the interesting piece of news was this, though: Moody's downgraded America's credit rating.
Oh.
It is no longer top credit rating, which means that actually there's some serious consequences to that. One is that it doesn't have good credit rating anymore, like it's lower, so it's harder to get loans, right? But what I didn't know, and this is the more important bit, the interest rate goes up on the existing loans. So if you no longer have top credit rating, right, as a nation, the interest you pay on the debt that you have actually goes up. So this is double whammy for the American economy. Funnily enough, there wasn't a lot of reporting around this, but it happened, just so we're clear, okay?
Sure.
America, USA downgraded credit rating. I'll see if I can find a story still.
I have the press release.
Okay, great. Yeah, so but it's almost completely, the silence is deafening. It wasn't even discussed, which I find interesting on the I guess the comedy shows in the States, which is funny. That was just yesterday. It just happened yesterday, right? That's when it was downgraded.
That's right.
And they haven't made fun of it, which is odd. Like, I'm talking about things like Steve Colbert and Bill Maher and those guys. Even on the right, no one is making, or I guess on the right they wouldn't be, but on the left or in the middle, no one has made fun of it.
Oh, it says May 16th, so just a couple of days.
Oh, sorry, Friday.
Yeah.
Friday, correct. Which would have given them the weekends to make fun of it, you'd think, right? That's not nothing. And I do follow it, and I like I said, I spend a lot of time looking at this stuff. And there's something else I wanted to discuss, though, Dave.
What's that?
Something that has nothing at all, nothing to do with any of this.
Oh, what's that?
Not even a little bit. So I saw this recent scientific paper and then a video as well. And Sabine Hossenfeld, I had the scientist, or spoke about the scientist.
Sabine,
yeah. That actually, I guess, put forward this hypothesis.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is this: did we look at the double slit experiment all wrong? And the hypothesis that was put forward, that they are not actually photons or electrons or whatever hitting the screen, but rather dark photons and dark electrons.
I saw that, yeah.
Now, in my mind, it's right up there with dark energy, dark matter, and string theory. In the sense that there's no proof for any of this. Zero, none. We do know that the double slit experiment works. And then I want to know, and I didn't look at that in detail, but I want to know how they explain that there's a different outcome when you observe the outcome and when you don't observe it.
It doesn't go to anywhere near explaining any of that.
Okay, so it's just a brain fart. But then I started thinking about this a bit more. So in the double slit experiment, ostensibly you have, or not even ostensibly always gives you this grain of doubt. The word itself, I shouldn't use the word, but what it does give you is the view that something is happening when you're not measuring it, and all of a sudden this one electron or photon or whatever the particle might be, all of a sudden turns into a multitude of potentialities. That's right. Really what, that's what the wave function is.
Don't look at it. That's right.
Correct. And then I was thinking about how we seem to slip from one potentially reality to another all the time, and not just us, but objects. We've talked about this at length, and maybe that's going to be a show cycle. Tardigrade, yeah, and maybe there's a show cycle in the near future around this where we discuss things that seem to, like, you put it somewhere, right, and then you go to that spot, and I've got perfect examples for that in my life, which I'll share with you again at some point. And you look at it, it's not there, it just isn't, it's not there. Okay, fine, right? So I look somewhere else, and then you come back, and there it is. It's like a blind spot, like you didn't see it, whatever, and you rationalize it away. You don't think about it much anymore.
That's right.
It's the mystery. It's no longer a mystery, right, Dave?
It's just not a mystery.
Now this happens a lot, and sometimes it happens to people. I know. I think I have no proof. This is just me talking.
Mm-hmm.
That I slip Sometimes I used to slip more. I think I slip less now. I think, could be wrong.
I'm not as sick as I used to be, Mackie. So it must be less.
Maybe we're stabilizing, right? So
That's
that's
right.
goodness.
Hopefully.
That's a good thing, I think, in many ways. But other things happen around me, and they slip in and out, and that happens. And sometimes, like a effect comes up, and I'm thinking, I didn't know that. I should have known that, but I didn't know that. How did I not know this? I was interested in this. This is my thing. How can I not know about this thing that I'm interested in? You know what I mean? But there it is. So
it was like when we discovered the Igigi, which we didn't know about.
Yeah, completely. And you go, what? And all of a sudden, there's this whole other thing unraveled, which was fascinating in many ways, which was a connection to the giants and a whole bunch of other stuff. But okay, so let's look at the wave function. Right there it is, before collapse. Now, according to the best hypothesis that we have out there, all of these contact points, if you will, or impact points on the screen represent potentialities. These are potential things, right? So you're not looking at what the particle does. So it could do a whole bunch of different things, which in fact, because you're not looking at it, it does, right? How this works, it's completely counterintuitive. Things like free will and thought or consciousness as the final building block of the universe, they all come into it. It becomes very complicated. It's a very mind-bending kind of undertaking. But now, in my mind, I think the wave function represents the potential, and I guess to the same extent actual, because potential and actual in the quantum world, I don't think there's a distinguished paradigm. I think they're the same. A potentiality is the same as an actuality, because while the wave collapses once you measure, right? It collapses. It collapses into one possibility. Scientists now, and have been for a while, believe that, well, the other possibilities don't just disappear. They're still there, but we can no longer measure them because we've measured now the particle. We've measured the particle. Therefore, all the other measurements are no longer valid. Okay? But they still exist, but not here, because the wave function collapsed. They still exist somewhere else. And it is these universes that we slip in and out of. Think of it as a bubble that is filled with an infinite number of other bubbles, which are the universes that we inhabit and slip in between. And I think there are other bubbles yet, which are not part of the wave function, which represent universes that are very, very different from our universe. I think there might be like a logical grouping of things, like birds of a feather, if you will, of universes. Again, an infinite number of universes, right? But there are many, many infinite numbers of universes in many other bubbles. So think of a vast field of infinite bubbles, and inside each of those infinite bubbles, there's an infinite number of bubbles as well. And we inhabit one of those big bubbles, right? So from our point of view, this would be the fifth dimensional space, or the fifth space dimension, right? And the other big bubbles, they would exist in a sixth dimensional space, right? And they're all at 90 degrees to each other. Each spatial dimension, we infer this from our limited knowledge of our existing spatial dimensions, right? First, second, and third dimension, right? They are at right angles to each other. And I believe that the time dimension, through which we cannot move freely, is also at a right angle to this, right? But somewhat of a different flavor, if you follow my meaning. Whereas these other universes, right, exist at right angles to our universe in a higher dimensional space, right? And the big bubble they're all sitting in is at right angles to the other big bubbles. And I think if you translate that geometry into the higher spheres of existence, dimensions that we cannot access, I think we will find that they're all at right angles to each other. Were we able to measure it, right? Because you have to start with first principles and then deduce your way up, okay? Now, what happens to the spaces between the angles? Does that mean there could be slightly different variations? I don't know. All I know is there are all the dimensions we walk in right now seem to exist only at right angles, right? Now, if you can somehow figure out how to move in time, right, at a right angle to the spatial dimensions, once we figure that out, I think time travel is just a hop, skip, and jump away once we get the math for that right. And then dimensional travel, again, at right angles, we should be able to get to those dimensions as well, because we would know where they are in that high dimensional space. They're at a right angle to ours, and they're all at a right angle to ours. Because in a high dimensional space, you can have an unlimited number of right angles. Because the thing is this, in the first dimension, how many right angles are there? 0, none. In the second dimension, how many right angles are there? Again, 0, none. We start getting into right angles in the third dimension, okay, right? And then as you have higher dimensional spaces, I believe that they're also at right angles to each other from a geometric point of view. And the fascinating thing is, once we do figure out the math and geometry of it, it shouldn't be impossible to move between them. It might even be because look, I really believe that we slip all the time, right? And whatever occasions to slip, I don't know, something has to be just right or just wrong, and objects slip in and out. There was a fascinating video, Dave, I watched, a paranormal caught on camera. Was it a hoax? Was it doctored? I don't know. I just want to describe the video to you. There's a lady. So this is a security camera inside someone's house. It looks at the front door, right? And then it also you can see stairs are going up, and there's a corridor that is on that floor. That's all you see. That's it. Okay, but it's big enough to see the lady that is actually in like comes in another house, and I think it was her mother's house, and she had just passed on, right? She was in there to clean or whatever. So you see, and it's sorry. The important thing is it's motion activated. So this is a motion activated security camera. Okay, so you see her pottering about, then going out the door and locking it, right? And off she goes, right? And then time passes, a bag appears inside, just inside of the door. And then again, the bag is there, nothing happens, there's no other movement, right? The movement that the camera
like
was the bag appeared.
If everyone's familiar with a trail cam, and it films everything that moves past the camera. Yeah.
Bingo, 100%. Now, it starts again when the lady comes back, right? And the door opens in such a way that she sees the bag, like it's not pushed by the door, but it's such a way that she's, and she looks at the bag, and you can see she's confused, clearly, right? Now this is silent and only like video security footage, right? It's not a movie, and she is clearly confused, and she looks at the bag. What is it, right? Now I forget now what's in the bag, and I don't know if it was mentioned on the show or not. But my point here is, if that video is real, and the thing is this, there are many videos like this where people all of a sudden pop in. There's a car that pops in, and there's this one video in a crowd where people like this person is just shooting a random at some amusement park. He's just shooting the crowd. Maybe his people are there, I don't know, whatever. And it's not crowded enough to block your total view, but there's a few people about, and all of a sudden, behind a person, another person appears, but that person that appeared behind the person didn't seem to come from anywhere. You go frame by frame, right? That person wasn't there until they appeared from behind that person. Now, whether the whole time, no, because that person was also walking. And other things like in traffic, for example, that has happened, right? But things all of a sudden appear in traffic. Other times, this is a really these are really strange ones, but sort of semi-lucent or semi-opaque figures appear as well and move around. Or some people say they're ghosts or specters. I want to say these are not fully transitioned people. These are probably echoes of shadows or things that sort of are caught in our visual field, if you will, and they just happen to be there, but not substantial enough to materialize, if you will. So the space between our bubbles is not sufficiently thin enough, and I like to call those spaces between our worlds that are traversable. I like to call them thin spaces. Not my term. I've heard it somewhere else, but I like to call that a thin space because it's easier to get through. And if you look at the UAP or UFO phenomenon as well, you will find that they also seem to pop in and out of existence.
That's right.
You've seen this, Dave. I mean, we've all seen it.
Yeah.
Right? Not just tremendous accelerations or turns or at speed. Sometimes even just no movement at all, and certainly no visible propulsion, no aerodynamic features at all. Yeah, no heat signature. Most importantly, right? And they pop in and out of it. So where do they pop to, and where do they pop from? Is the question.
Well,
in my mind,
I have something to add to this.
Yeah,
and
please.
I found a video that I was watching where there is a security guard talking to what he thinks is a lady.
Okay.
In a doorway. Now, this is a security camera, fixed camera, looking down this hallway, and you can see it on. If you're watching this on YouTube, you should be able to see it or Rumble. So he walks up to this lady who's standing in the doorway, and he's talking to her, and his probably supervisor, direct supervisor, or work colleague is watching this, and he's completely conversing with this lady, and she calls it in. She says, so like, what are you doing? And you see him grab the mic on his collar, and just goes, "Oh, I'm just talking to this lady." And he said, the person says something like, "Can you describe her?" Because she's watching the camera, there's no one there. And he does, and when he says, he describes her, she says, "She died years ago."
Oh, jeez.
Like, everyone's seen this lady, this ghost. And he just gets it out. He gets out of there so fast it's not funny. Right? You don't hear that ghost talking over that security, thing, but it's interesting because I used to work in a very large factory, and it was the old Weller hair product factory up in Carryong, Somersby. And I used to work in there, and it was then a kitchen company. And something really extraordinary would happen if you were on your own, because during the day there's so much noise you couldn't hear anything. So I was the closest living worker to there, so I had the keys, and if any alarm went off, I would go up there and have a look without a weapon. Just drive in and open it up and have a little walk around. And so 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm up there on my own. And I stopped walking, and then I still heard footsteps. I know why, because I'd been told by a previous employee that if you're here late at night, you'll hear footsteps. And it's the guy who died on shift. He was the shift supervisor, and the explanation was that it's probably he liked his job, but he's not aware that he's passed.
Apparently, that seems to be a fairly
that's the more likely common excuse for someone who still remains.
Yeah. They don't know they're dead, which I find endlessly fascinating.
Yeah.
Because obviously it doesn't at all gel with our concept of what happens when you die, right? I mean, of course you should know, right? No, not at all.
Well, there's no instruction manual, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I guess that's the truth. At least I haven't gotten one yet.
It's like America's Greatest Superhero. I love that show. So I couldn't see the person and I couldn't talk to them, but I did hear footsteps, like they were walking really close to me in the dark. And I flicked the lights on and there was no one there. It was like a couple of acres under roof. So the person was really near me. But whatever it was, couldn't see them. There's no equipment in this area where I was. It was empty space. Just, look, I'm okay with it because I've had a whole bunch of really crazy things occur in my life. But for other people, they couldn't do it. Not a chance.
No. Look, and again, right? We were brought up in a certain way, all of us, believing certain things, whatever it might be in our cultural environment, our family environment, and those things pretty much frame our reality, right? They're the basis, and if you start rattling at that, a lot of people become very apprehensive and find it difficult to deal with the realities that might underlie their reality, which are nothing to do with their reality at all. And people like Dave, myself, and others that I know, from an ontological point of view, have a much easier way or an easier time to incorporate it into our overall worldview, for the very simple reason: either a lot of strange things have happened to you since you were a child, so that's just your world. That's just reality. That's it. That's how you understood the world, right? It's just weird, and this stuff happens, and you're okay with it. Two, you were never really given a compass or grounding or base to work from, right? Maybe a combination of the two. Certainly true for me, and I think very much true for Dave as well. And those are really unusual circumstances. Number one, where these things have happened to you, and number two, where no one really pushed a worldview on you, right? Religious or political or otherwise, philosophical even, other than maybe, be critical, be skeptical, but critical and skeptical in a positive way. Not saying no to everything, but critically and skeptically examining it for its merits, right? And no, extraordinary claims do not require extraordinary proof. They require the exact same proof as any other claim. And who even determines what's extraordinary? That's what bothers me the most. And who determines, this is my pet hate, what Occam's razor is?
Ahead. That's right.
The simplest explanation is always, or most likely, the correct one. Yeah, but who? And I asked this AI, and AI goes, "Oh, well, I guess you got a point there." Who determines what No one does. No one can. There's no objective, simplest explanation, because we don't know everything.
And what Mekki and I did with the AI was an experiment to see whether the AI can learn from our experience with it, and it did.
It did.
It proved to us, because a short discussion later with it, I asked the same question, then it included Mekki's answer in it.
Yeah. So it had learned.
Post his discussion, yeah.
This was Opus, I think. If I'm was it?
Claude?
I can't remember. Claude, yes. Claude. Now, if you look at it that way, then quantum mechanics, the simplest explanation should be it's not real. It doesn't exist. There's none.
That's right.
There's no quantum mechanics. There's no. It's not. In fact, the moon shouldn't exist. The simplest explanation for the moon, it's a hallucination.
Yes.
Okay, that's the simplest explanation. Actually, the only explanation, and this is not coming from me, this is from a whole bunch of scientists, the simplest explanation of the moon that would account for virtually all of its anomalies in conjunction, or rather in connection to the Earth and the Sun and the rest of the solar system, it would be that it was built by someone.
That's right.
That is or it's an illusion. That's the only way that would explain all of the things that are supposedly wrong with the moon. Okay, that's a whole different show cycle. And if anybody's interested,
it would be extraordinary, Mekki, if the moon itself, if the reason why we never really went back with humans to the moon and that aliens were there, maybe they're the Watchers. Could you imagine if that was their Watchers base up there, and they were installed there? Because remember, there was a time before the moon, and if that was the case, as some ancient alien believers believe, if that were the case, and the only reason it has an undulating surface is from the regolith, which was all of the things that have collided with it and just become dust, and that's why there's no crater that's any deeper than any other, despite the massive size of the impactor. You would imagine they'd be all varying depths, but no, they're at the depths that you see all go down to a certain level and no deeper than that, and that it's hollow, and that it's 400 times smaller than the sun, but exactly 400 times closer than the sun is, making them the identical size in the sky. None of those things should ever make sense.
No. If anybody has an interest, this to our listeners, please leave a comment below this video. I wrote an article which Nexus hasn't published. I might shop it around a bit more on the mysteries of the moon. It's fairly comprehensive, so it might be worth your while to have a read on it. It's a compilation of all the things that are wrong with the moon, all the prevailing theories as to what the moon might be or might not be. So overall, right? So you have to ask yourself that why are we talking about this? Well, this is important. Because ultimately, we have to ask ourselves, where do we live? What is our existence all about? And this is not about, sleep, eat, work, sleep, eat, work, sleep, eat, work, sleep, eat, work. Oh, it's Sunday. Let's have some marital relations. Sleep, eat, work, sleep, eat, work. Right? Well, whatever you might do in your household.
Are you reading from my diary? Hang on,
it's just a hidden one. But that's not the purpose or meaning of our life. My daughter, she's 11, and she asked me, what is the purpose of life? What's the meaning of life? I said, well, I don't know.
Great question.
Look, that's a great question. And I said, look, you can read my hypothesis or listen to the shows. I try to outline what I think things are about. And I said to her, penultimately even, it is our, I guess, our stated aim and purpose to escape from this cycle of rebirth that we seem to be stuck in here on this plane of existence. Now, I know that quite a few of you probably wouldn't believe in reincarnation, but belief is not required because the mountain of evidence that has been stacked up in favor of reincarnation is almost unbelievable. And Dave and I have done a lot of research into it, and a lot of a lot of scientists, I should say, that have done a lot of research into it. And there was one lady whose name escapes me right now. She went into it as thinking, oh, what a lot of hokum. I'm going to debunk it. And she came away saying, oh my God, there really is something to this. Now, it's easy to be an armchair critic if you don't know all the facts. That's nonsense. How do you know that? Everybody knows that. I hate it when people say that, Dave. I hate it. All the experts agree.
Everyone knows that.
I find it extremely upsetting when people tell me this. Oh, all the experts. No, stop. What it is that that makes this invalid, this theory, this thought.
How did you come to that conclusion? Talk me through it.
Yeah. So once you've done that and you make a that I can, number one, follow, and number two, agree with, I will say to you, hey, okay, you're right. Your point is valid. Okay, I dig it, right? Until you can do that, I'm not interested. I don't want to hear what you think the expert thinks or what you think common knowledge is or Occam's razor or commonly accepted opinion. I have no interest in any of that. You know why? Because the commonly accepted opinion has been proven to be wrong again and again and again.
And again, that's right.
And again.
Exactly right.
Okay.
Otherwise,
the Earth is flat.
The Earth is flat and in the center of the universe. So, happy days.
Happy days. So, yeah.
You know what? Most of the denial of any new information is strictly based around the person's inability to accept change.
Yes.
100%. That's it.
In fact, change. Public speaking and change are the two things. But that's true. We're terrified of those things. And Seinfeld made the joke of, the person at the funeral. If you had a funeral, the person in the coffin is better off than the person giving the eulogy, according to popular. No, really, if you look at the statistics, that's absolutely true, right? Because the fear of public speaking eclipsed the fear of death. Believe it or not. No, really. You go, what? No, but the fear of change, and because with change, and we discussed this at length, right? Change brings uncertainty, okay? And uncertainty is something that we really don't like, okay? Because uncertainty doesn't leave you free to act. If you face a threat, let's say there's a saber-toothed tiger that's about to eat you. You've got 3 choices, right? You can run, you can fight, or you can play dead. These are your 3 choices, right? That's it. There's not much else there. With fear, that's a good thing. So if your higher brain functions shut down, the limbic system takes over, and you're driven by instinct of survival in this case. If you're faced with uncertainty, right? So it's dark, and you hear rustling, you hear some noises, they're scary, but well, you're afraid, yes, but you're also uncertain as to what you should be afraid of. Is it a little meerkat, or is it a bear coming to dine on you? You don't know, so you're paralyzed. Okay, uncertainty can paralyze you because it leads to inaction, and you're going, oh, geez, what I don't know. I mean, if you present it with a clear threat,
Mm-hmm.
which will evoke a fear response, great. That's actually great, because then you can take action. If you're left in a state of uncertainty, I know we talked about this many times, then you don't know what to do. Now, people say fear is the mind killer. I agree, but what it means is your higher cognitive functions, your higher reasoning, all the things that sort of clutter your brain are shut down, and
That's
it
right.
goes back to basics, right? Again, limbic system takes over, right?
Yeah, it's not a great place to make decisions from. I know that if you're in
No.
immediate danger without fear, if you're in danger, people have described, and I've got an experience with this, where the limited time in milliseconds that you have to react to something, time slows down. People describe this about car accidents.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the moment you're in a life or death situation, for that millisecond where you need to make a decision, I think lizard brain takes over. It's a low resolution, usually black and white footage that you'll get able to make a choice in with the least amount of time delay.
Yeah.
So that is, I need to steer here, or I have to brake now, or I have to avoid this. Whatever those things are, it happened to me. And I remarked to myself afterwards how that experience was from my perspective. No one externally could see what I had to deal with,
Mm-hmm.
but what I was shown as choices was like, you know, the chipmunk from Over the Hedge who has the energy drink, and then the laser is going so slowly, and he's running all about doing everything. Or when Fry has the 50 coffees in Futurama and there's a building fire and he takes everyone out. So the same thing. That's exactly how it felt to me, and that Over the Hedge nailed it. They nailed that really well.
That's actually that's funny. I love that movie. It's that was one of the first animations out there. It was really good. But yeah, no, yeah, look, Dave is absolutely right. I had similar experiences, not quite as dramatic, but where time did slow down. In fact, it actually stood still.
Mm-hmm.
Time completely froze for me, and I was able to act. If time, or if my perception hadn't been that, clearly my mind must have been working at a gazillion times.
Yeah, that's right.
Its normal speed, because I was in a classroom. This was back in year 11 here in Australia. The classroom was probably, I want to say, maybe 10 meters across, and the tables were arranged in kind of a horseshoe, which was open to the blackboard to the teacher. I was sitting on one side next to the window, so the windows were at my back, and the other person was opposite me, diagonally, kind of, with the wall, with the back to their back to the wall, but we were facing each other essentially, right? Now I was looking to the side. I wasn't looking at that person. I was looking to the side, but clearly my peripheral vision must have picked something up. So I turned my head, and what this person had done had thrown a soccer ball directly at my face, right? Now, and he threw it with some force, and he wasn't a small fella, right? Now, I must have seen something. So I saw the ball. It was like frozen in air, literally frozen in air, and I moved my head.
Yeah.
And it missed me.
Nice.
It would have been smack in my face, and all kinds of things, and it missed me. And now I don't have my reflexes are good, but they're not super speed reflexes like in this instant, right? So I saw the ball suspended in the air, like it wasn't moving at all. I can still see it, and I moved my head just enough so the wall would it smacked. I was afraid it was going to break the window. To be honest with you, it smacked hard into the window.
Wow.
Yeah, no, he meant to make an impression upon my face.
And you would have said scolding.
Yeah.
In reverse text.
But it's funny how that I had a few accidents on my bike, and you know what's funny? There's this almost like a fugue state I entered, where everything was fuzzy, and then the accident happened. So almost like a warning that something is around the corner.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, look, the reason we've discussed all of this here today is simply because yes, we've been gotten lost a little in current affairs, which are important.
That's
Make
right.
no mistake. But it is much more important to focus on the bigger things, such as why we're here, what does it all mean, where we're going to go. It's just a lot of stuff that we should cover more of.
Because otherwise, we're just echoing the mainstream media.
That we don't want to do that.
No,
I mean, some commentaries are quite. Hey, this has been Platos Cave. Thank you so much, and thanks for starting the show, Dave. I've got to work on Teams. Don't go anywhere. Something else is going to come up. Donate if you can. This is Listener Fun and Radio. But most of all, Dave,
be safe.